You are listening to Democracy Now! Fannie Lou Hamer was born 85 years ago on October 6, 1917, the daughter of Mississippi sharecroppers. She became involved in the civil rights movement when she volunteered to attempt to register to vote in 1962. By the age of 45 years old, Hamer lost her job and continually risked her life because of her civil rights activism. Despite a brutal beating, she helped organize the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party to challenge white domination of the Mississippi Democratic Party. In 1964, the party challenged the all-white Mississippi delegation of the Democratic Convention, with Hamer leading the challenge. Her voice, along with others, led to an integrated Mississippi delegation in 1968. We go now to the Pacifica Archives, which has the largest archives of the voice of Fannie Lou Hamer. This is a speech that Fannie Lou Hamer gave at UC Berkeley, at the University of California, Berkeley, in 1965.
I really feel grateful that what has happened here is something I said in front of Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C. in 1965. After I had sent President Johnson a telegram telling him to bring the people home from the Dominican Republic and Vietnam, and I said to President Johnson at that time, if this society of yours is a great society, God knows I would hate to live in a bad one. But at that time, we felt very alone, because when we started saying the war is wrong in Vietnam, well, people looked at us like we were something out of space. But when they talked about the other day of the Gallup poll being 58% of the people against the war in Vietnam, then we see if you're right, you have to stand on that principle, and if it's necessary to die on the principle, because I am sick of the racist war in Vietnam when we don't have justice in the United States. I've heard several comments from people that was talking about with the people, for the people, and by the people. Being a black woman from Mississippi, I've learned that long ago that's not true. It's with a handful, for a handful, by a handful. But we're going to change that, baby. We are going to change that, because we're going to make democracy a reality for all of the people of this country. A couple of Sundays ago, I was in Washington at the cathedral there, and I read in the Post magazine that here was Secretary of Defense Melvin Lord's son had been classified as 4F. And he had been classified because he had a tendency of a purine malactivation that would sometime result in the gout. I said, what in the world is the gout? So we got the dictionary and looked this word up, and what it was saying, sometime his joints might swell up, and it resulted in a painful swelling of the big toe. Now, ain't that ridiculous? Look it up, the gout. That's what the man had. And it didn't say he would have it, said he may have it. And you see, the strange and the awful thing about it, the people that's conducting this war in Vietnam don't have sons to go through it. And we are sick and tired of seeing people lynched and raped and shot down all across the country in the name of law and order, and not even feeding the hungry across the country. There's something else funny, too. There's something very funny when a man like Senator James O. Eastland, the biggest welfare recipient in the whole country, there's something wrong when he can help to set policies for Vietnam and own 5,800 acres in the state of Mississippi, and people on the plantation suffering from malnutrition. There's something wrong with that. And we got to go a long way back, people, and talk about real conspiracy. Because it was something wrong in New York City when Malcolm X was shot down through conspiracy. It was something wrong in America when, again, Kennedy hadn't been a very liberal man, but when he seen it was so much wrong that he had to do something about it, he was shot down. And again, on the 4th of April, a couple of years ago, one of the most nonviolent souls of our time, Dr. Martin Luther King, was shot down through conspiracy. I want you to know what's happening to us today. America is sick, and man is on the critical list. We want a change throughout the country. And the only way we can have a change is to bring those men home from Vietnam. People have been greatly punished. They have been criticized because we are in a racist war that don't give a man a chance, that carry him to Vietnam. And I don't believe, the first scapegoat this country got to get away on is communism. Now, I know as much about communism as a horse know about New Year. But nobody, and that means nobody, has to tell me that it's not something wrong with the system, and no communist has to tell me that I'm without food and clothing and a decent place to live in this country. And I think that charity really began at home.